So today I have pulled out all of my plants from the bins I had left running. After that initial cold snap that required me for moving fish back in, it's actually been in the 80s most days around here, so I've allowed the plants to continue their growing season. But being as it's mid-October, the water is getting a bit brisk, and so generally I'll end their growing season when it's uncomfortable for me to stick my hands in the water. So I've pulled out all these marginals. These are all the pots that were hooked alongside the bins that provided shade and cover. And next up I have to pull out the lilies, and then I'll show you what I do to prepare them for wintering. Hey guys, I'm Rachel O'Leary, and today I'm out at the bins because the weather is finally cold enough for me to pull all the plants. Now unfortunately the greenhouse isn't quite ready, so I'm going to prepare them the way I have every other year. And that's simply by whacking all the plant growth back right to the top of the pot and letting them go dormant. Now in previous years, I can link to those below, I've flipped over this big tub and put them underneath. But this year I'm going to move them to the greenhouse and see how they do. Figured why might as well. So I'm going to get started chopping stuff back, and I really do it the same for every single plant. I just cut it right above the crown, removing all the green growth and allowing all the nutrition to go back to the center of the plant. So let's get started. This is society garlic, and it's very aromatic. It's one of my favorites, actually. You see, I'm not particularly delicate here. And if you guys remember correctly, every single plant came back for me from last year, which was fantastic. And you can see the incredible growth that's come through. A lot of times I'll just go ahead and cut all this off too, which will make it easier for me to split pots in the spring, as well as to navigate working with them right now. So that is one pot ready. We'll move on to the next ones. Now this is really simple, and what a lot of people do, I apologize for the mower. What a lot of people do is they move these plants inside to overwinter as house plants. I just simply don't have the space in the house. The fish room is quite warm, a little too warm, and you know, I have a ton of plants here, and historically I've had pretty good success. I'm also removing any dead leaves or just junk that's around. Basically everything's just getting a massive haircut. Now a lot of people will repot each spring, and I think I will next year simply because I had those carnivorous beetles show up in my bins, and hopefully by getting rid of the old soil I'll get rid of those guys too. But we'll have to wait and see. Look at this. You can see this is pretty quick. I'm just going to go ahead and do the rest, and then I'll show you the aftermath. So this is the end product of all of the containers whacked back. This is some of the waste, which will get composted and then reused in soil but you can see I just basically cut them back however's convenient to me. And then I'm going to move them into the greenhouse for now. And up next is the lilies. So caring for the lilies is basically the same. I pull them out, cut off all their leaves. And if you guys could see up close, you'd see, and I'll show you in a moment before I do all these. These guys are still growing. These subtropical lilies really will grow until freezing. But I don't want to deal with overwintering them after that fact. So with all of these, just cut off everything right to the top of the crown. I mean, there's a lot of growth still happening here, but it wasn't happening fast, and they weren't really flowering anymore because I hadn't fertilized. And because the water's getting so cold, it's really not much fun to deal with these guys when things get any colder than this, because it's physically painful to reach into the water. So I just chop them all back, and when I'm done chopping them all back, I put them in black trash bags. And in previous years, I've stuck them in the fish room in a dark place in the coolest part of the fish room. This year I'm going to throw them in black trash bags and throw them in the greenhouse and see what happens. I imagine they'll be just fine. And I pour off all the excess water, pull off any algae, and then we're good to go. And then as soon as it gets above freezing in the spring, I can pull them back out and they'll start to grow again. And I put them in shallow bins at that time to start the life cycle all over again. Some of these are were absolutely phenomenal this year, though. So as you can see, just cut them all off right at the top of the buckets, and I'm going to throw them in heavy duty black trash bags, which I'll put into the greenhouse. While I was out here, what I did as well is go through all my carnivorous plants and cut off any dead or mostly dead pitchers for now. Pretty soon I will be moving them indoors as well into the greenhouse to start their overwintering, and they'll get their own video here in the next couple weeks. So as you can see in the greenhouse here, we haven't gotten to shelves yet, but the temperature according to the wall over there is about 90 degrees. So it's definitely about, say, 40 degrees warmer than outside. So what I'm going to do right now is just go to all these lilies, put them in black bags and put them in the shaded portion of the greenhouse, and then let everything else just kind of sit. I've also got to give my carnivorous plants a little bit of water from moving, and then hopefully in the next week or so we'll get the shelves up in here and I'll set things up permanently for winter. But just to give you an idea of how very many plants I have, this is a 20-foot by 10-foot greenhouse, and it's over half full with just the stuff I took out of my existing tubs. One of the things we still have left to do in here is to go around and caulk everything so that it's completely watertight in here for the winter. But it's been raining nonstop, so we haven't had the opportunity to do so yet. Hopefully again this upcoming week. But all I do for these lilies is quite literally open a black trash bag, and set them inside. So I usually open it the long ways and put the pots in. Sometimes I'll even stack them, because again, as soon as it gets warm enough, I pull them out and they're good. And if you have a garage space, you could easily do this in a garage. I don't happen to have a garage space. That is my husband's domain, so I do it like this. And usually I can fit all my little white pots in one, and then I put the 2 big fabric pots in another trash bag. And that's all there really is to it. So the lilies will just sit here until spring, until it's consistently above freezing. I'll open them up and throw them in water again. So the best part of this greenhouse is it's bought me probably another month before I need to panic about getting all of this stuff permanently set up for winter, since it does keep things so dramatically much warmer in here. So for now, I just have all my pitchers moved inside. They have a thin layer of water. All these guys are cut back. And I have some overwintering supplies coming this week in order to finish up. As always, thank you guys for your continued support. Let me know below if you have any comments, suggestions, or questions. And make sure you're stopping by my business Facebook, Invertebrates by Ms. Jinxed, as well as my Instagram, @Ms. Jinxed, because I'm going to be giving away a bunch of stuff.